After some delays, the next-gen versions of GTA Online were finally released to us on Tuesday. So oozing with excitement, I got onto the game and I saw how easy it was to transfer my character, which was the wrong one, and not the character that was my main character that I spent 9 years on. Stressful? Yes. Frustrating? Definitely. Luckily, I wasn't the only one with the issue, so there was a lot of noise about it on social media, and Rockstar managed to fix it even before the official release in the majority of countries. Hats off to them definitely for fixing it in a pretty short notice. This was fixed in like 2-3 hours after they officially recognized it on the Rockstar support Twitter. Very good stuff. Crisis averted, starting over series delayed. Still coming, but I'm gonna work it out how. As for the game itself, the short version is going to be pretty simple. You're getting the PC version on console with some better looking smoke, rain, fire, and some other small detail improvements, sprinkled with a fancy new menu and some quality of life issues, most of which aren't as noticeable, especially if you've played the PC version. Having said this, the 60 FPS and improved loading times are very noticeable, again, primarily if you came from console. Public free roam lobbies are noticeably quicker to load into, and again, that 60 FPS though, it is a game changer. Primarily looking at this from a console player, that it really is where a lot of your excitement and enjoyment of the new version of the game is going to come from. I've seen a lot of people within my Twitch chat being absolutely ecstatic by just how much better the game feels to play and how much better it looks. But if you played the game on PC like myself, none of the stuff that I mentioned is really that impressive to you, and it's simply just called Tuesday. However, as someone who's played the game actively on console too, the improvements are definitely pretty big and they are very noticeable. Have you ever felt when you're playing on PlayStation 4 or Xbox One, the game isn't really exactly doing what you want it to do? There's always this weird input lag and delay whenever you're doing something, like you're pressing that you want to go to the left, but it takes like half a second for it to register, and when you start paying attention to it, it becomes increasingly annoying, especially when you're also used to the PC version, where whenever you press a button, it will instantly happen. On console, there was always this weird input delay. Now luckily, on the next-gen versions, this is completely gone, which means that the game on console is just so much better. The feeling of the game doing exactly what I wanted to do when I press a button on my controller is a breath of fresh air like I couldn't describe. Sure, this is definitely the honeymoon phase, and realistically, I played the game in 60 FPS many hours already on PC, so there really isn't anything new. But if there was something that was really hampering my enjoyment on console, was with how clunky the game felt. 60 FPS definitely gets rid of most of that jank because it feels natural. It feels more like a proper third-person type of action game. Free aim even becomes more usable too, which on console is going to be a godsend in certain scenarios, because again, if you ever played in 30 FPS on console, you are going to have a pretty terrible time trying to aim this with your right stick. It is not a good time. It feels janky, it doesn't feel good. 60 FPS, however, makes everything a whole lot smoother. Speaking of honeymoon phase, the new cars. You've seen some footage of them already in the video, but oh my, they are a lot of fun to drive. Because they are so fast, you really have to get used to a different breed of car. Normally, a car doesn't really go any faster than like 136 miles per hour within a race, but in this update, that all changes, especially with the Cyclone 2. Think electric car acceleration, but with a top speed of a rocket power supercar. Then think about that reaching the top speed in a blink of an eye. Yes, it is quite a handful, but in a good way, because it challenges players like myself who've been playing this game for a while, that really fixes that issue that I had with other cars in the game. Often the game has a lot of cars that felt the same, but the HSW cars are just injected with a load of cocaine and you're tripping balls like you've never seen before. They are quick. One of my favorite experiences I had on stream was when I was driving the Banshee. Honestly, this thing with HSW mods still drives like a dream, but it's quick, and it just makes it such a more interesting driving experience to really feel like you're actually going fast, with previous car not really having that sort of satisfaction level again. So here's hoping that in the future, with future HSW cars, if they are going to release more of them, and I really hope that they will bring these mods to more vehicles, because it just gives those cars a new life. Also, who would have thought in 2022 I'd be talking about the Banshee being a really fast car? I love it. Also, Turismo Classic, definitely be careful with those brakes. They've seen better days. But it also kind of gives us a bit of a charm where you have to relearn how you drive the Turismo Classic because it's going so fast, but you also have to keep in mind those brakes were definitely not changed. But obviously, I have to be realistic here too. For as good as an upgrade that the new version feels for console players, if you played this on PC before, there really isn't anything new here, aside from the amount of sudden game crashes that you sometimes experience on PC. And the new content that they added to the game literally is 2 new cars, 2 existing cars with a custom variant, and 5 existing cars having given the HSW treatment. The new races in the game are just simply HSW car-specific races that will only allow you to use HSW cars, but the races themselves have been in the game since 2013, and there's also a new time trial. And that really is all the new content here. The next-gen versions really feels like they've been updating a bunch of smaller stuff and probably going for it too, but then just suddenly stopped. I can't help but think that when they updated the explosions and the smoke effects in the game, that there was a desire to make the new version of the game really stand out from the pack, and that there was more planned for it. But due to time restraints or wanting to get the game out by a certain end or decent time, they said screw it and then decided to release it. There is still a heap of things that they can still improve in terms of quality of life. The menus, the UI, there's still a lot of things in the game that could do with an overhaul. But is that going to happen now when the game is already out? I unfortunately highly doubt it. We're still stuck with having to scroll through 70 sports cars before we start a race. And if you're someone like myself, I'm pretty close to having set 70 sports cars, so that is a nightmare. Having said this, the package here itself is good. For the regular price of $20 when the discounts and the free PlayStation 5 version has expired, I'd say it will be hard for me to really recommend the upgrade, primarily because it's going to come down to one thing and one thing only: you. What do you want out of the upgrade? Are you fine with spending $20 on having a much better playing game than on the previous generation of consoles? Or are you only wanting to upgrade to be able to play the new content? For the new content, at the moment, it's not going to be worth your money. Unless you are going for the discounted path and you can get the game for cheap. The game is still the same game as it was last week. It just has cars now that go 160 miles per hour. Yes, they're really that fast. At the end of the day, if you're buying the game now with the discounted prices, you're buying into the future of GTA Online. That really is the end goal here. Whenever the support of PS4 and Xbox One ends, your only option is going to be next-gen consoles or playing the game with a sore asshole every time you load into a PC lobby. But those are just some of my thoughts. Of course, I'd love to know what you think in the comment section down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe for more, and if you really like what you see on the channel, please consider becoming a member like Chloe, Robert, Madman Dakota, and Shapeshift Gaming. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you all later.